Hello and welcome to First Chapter Fridays with Miss Valine, your media specialist here at Cesar Chavez, live in Union City at our wonderful library. I've been digging around, finding some good reads to share with you, and I came across a great one. It is hilarious for many reasons. One, I just absolutely love the way that, you ever read a book where the character, the narrator of the story just sounds like they are speaking directly to you? I just love that. And in this book, it speaks to you the whole way through. The other thing that I really love about it is throughout the novel, there are little cartoons that are tucked throughout the story that are just that adds to the hilarity as well. Although this book is not just a humorous story. It is a story about coming of age and, of growing older and finding out who you are in this world and overcoming a lot of obstacles. And boy, this character has a lot of obstacles, man. Um, and so I do have to warn you that this is for probably older middle school readers. There is some content in here that maybe you're not ready for, although I know that many of our middle school students are, and it's absolutely appropriate for middle school, I feel. Um, the story is The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. This book has been on the New York Times bestseller. It has won numerous awards because it is just a truly, truly very well written, speaks to you book that you're just going to fall in love with the character. So from the back, Junior is a budding cartoonist growing up on the Spokane Indian Reservation. Born with a variety of medical problems, he is picked on by everyone but his best friend. Determined to receive a good education, Junior leaves the res to attend an all-white school in the neighboring farm town, where the only other Indian is the school mascot. Despite being condemned as a traitor to his people and enduring great tragedies, Junior attacks life with wit and humor and discovers a strength inside of himself that he never knew existed. Inspired by his own experiences growing up, award-winning author Sherman Alexie chronicles the contemporary adolescence of one unlucky boy trying to rise above the life everyone expects him to live. Boy, and if you're a Native American, you aren't expected to go very far in life. It's actually kind of sad. Um, if you happen to know anything about Native Americans and education, especially on the reservation, on reservations, period. Chapter 1 of The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. The Black Eye of the Month Club. I was born with water on the brain. Okay, so that's not exactly true. I was actually born with too much cerebral spinal fluid inside my skull, but cerebral spinal fluid is just the doctor's fancy way of saying brain grease. And brain grease works inside and lubes the car. Grease works inside of an engine. It keeps things running smooth and fast, but weirdo me, I was born with too much grease inside my skull and it got all thick and muddy and disgusting and it only mucked up the works. My thinking and breathing and living engine slowed down and flooded. My brain was drowning in grease, but that makes the whole thing sound weirdo and funny, like my brain was a giant French fry, so it seems more serious and poetic and accurate to say I was born with water on the brain. Okay, so maybe that's not a very serious way to say it either. Maybe the whole thing is weird and funny, but geez, did my mother and father and big sister and grandma and cousins and aunts and uncles think it was funny when the doctors cut open my little skull and sucked out all the extra water in some tiny vacuum? I was only 6 months old and I was supposed to croak during the surgery. And even if I somehow survived the mini Hoover, I was supposed to suffer serious brain damage during the procedure and live the rest of my life as a vegetable. Well, I obviously survived the surgery. I wouldn't be writing this if I didn't, but I have all sorts of physical problems that are directly the result of my brain damage. First of all, I ended up having 42 teeth. The typical human has 32, right? I have 42. 10 more than usual, 10 more than normal, 10 teeth past human. My teeth got so crowded that I could barely close my mouth. I went to Indian Health Services to get some teeth pulled so I could eat normally, not like some slobbering vulture. But the Indian Health Services funded major dental work only once a year, so I had to have all 10 extra teeth pulled in one day. And what's more, our white dentist believed that Indians only felt half as much pain as white people did. So he only gave us half the Novocaine. What a bastard, huh? Indian Health Services also funded eyeglass purchases only once a year and offered one style, those ugly, thick black plastic ones. My brain damage left me nearsighted in one eye and farsighted in the other, so my ugly glasses were all lopsided because my eyes were so lopsided. I get headaches because my eyes are like enemies, like they used to be married to each other, but now they hate each other's guts. And I started wearing glasses when I was 3, so I ran around the res looking like a 3-year-old Indian grandpa. And oh, I was skinny. I'd turn sideways and disappear. But my hands and my feet were huge, and my feet were a size 11 in 3rd grade. With my big feet, my pencil bodies, I looked like a capital L walking down the road. And my skull was enormous, epic. My head was so big that little Indian skulls orbited around it. Some of the kids called me Orbit, and other kids just called me Globe. The bullies would pick me up, spin me in circles, and put their finger down on my skull and say, I want to go there. So obviously, I looked goofy on the outside, but it was the inside stuff that was the worst. First of all, I had seizures, at least 2 a week. So I was damaging my brain on a regular basis. But the thing is, I was also having no seizure because I already had brain damage. So I was reopening wounds each time I seized. Yet, whenever I had a seizure, I was damaging my damage. I haven't had a seizure in 7 years, but the doctors tell me that I am susceptible to seizure activity. Susceptible to seizure activity. Doesn't that just roll off the tongue like poetry? I also had a stutter and a lisp, or maybe I should just say I had a stutter and a lisp. You wouldn't think there is anything life-threatening about speech impediments, but let me tell you, there is nothing more dangerous than being a kid with a stutter and a lisp. A 5-year-old is cute and he lisps and stutters. Heck, most of the big-time kid actors stuttered and lisped their ways into stardom. And geez, you're all still fairly cute when you're all stuttering and lisping 6, 7, or 8 years old, but it's all over when you turn 9 or 10. After that, your stutter and your lisp turns you into a retard. And if you're 14 years old like me and you're still stuttering and lisping, then you become the biggest retard in the world. Everybody on the res calls me a retard about twice a day. They call me retard when they are pantsing me or stuffing my head in the toilet or just smacking me upside the head. I'm not even writing down the story the way I actually talk because I'd have to fill it with stutters and lisps, and then you'd be wondering what you were reading, a story written by such a retard. Do you know what happens to retards on the res? We get beat up at least once a month. Yep, I belong to the Black Eye a Month Club. Sure, I want to go outside. Every kid wants to go outside, but it's safer to stay at home. So I mostly hang out alone in my bedroom and read books and draw cartoons. Here is one of them. I draw all the time. I draw cartoons of my mother and father, my sister, my grandmother, my best friend, Rowdy, and everybody else on the res. I draw because words are too unpredictable. I draw because words are too limited. If you speak and write in English or Spanish or Chinese or any other language, then only a certain percentage of human beings will get your meaning. But when you draw a picture, everybody can understand it. If I draw a cartoon of a flower, then every man, woman, and child in the world can look at it and say, that's a flower. So I draw because I want to talk to the world and I want the world to pay attention to me. I feel important with a pen in my hand. I feel like I might grow up to be somebody important, an artist, maybe a famous artist, maybe a rich artist. That's the only way I can become rich and famous. Just take a look at the world. Almost all the rich and famous brown people are artists. They're singers and actors and writers and dancers and directors and poets. So I draw because I feel like it might be my only real chance to escape the reservation. I think the world is a series of broken dams and floods, and my cartoons are tiny little lifeboats. Here's another picture from that chapter. So find out what happens to our main character here in The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian, as he eventually does leave the res and heads on out to a farm town where nothing, just white people, and he is the only Native American going to school and having to survive not only that, but all that he's having to deal with his health. Funny story. Also heart-wrenching, and a great story about coming of age and growing up and learning who you are and how to become you. Great kudos for Sherman Alexie. If you'd like to check out this book, it is available at our school. Just go to our school website, CCMS Library, CCMS Media Center, CCMS Union City. Just Google one of those, click on Destiny Discover, find this book, log in, check it out, and I can have it ready for you and waiting downstairs in the office to pick up with our books to go. Enjoy your weekend. See you next week. Bye.